So I'd like to welcome Aarthi Kannan, who is sharing her experiences um, in using the right brain stimulation. I'm not sure that I've used the right form of saying this, Aarthi. So the screen is all yours now. So anybody would like to ask any questions? Would you prefer them sharing their questions on the chat or picking them as it comes or towards the end of the presentation? What would you prefer,
Uh,
Aarti?
Better if it's like towards the end of the session and if it's like a
Okay,
discussion, so it'll be great because
okay,
when I'm going to enlarge my presentation, it's going to cut
yeah,
off everyone. I can't see any of you, so I'll have
okay,
to come back because it's
yeah,
top. So I would prefer that way. Thank you.
okay. I'll monitor the chats. Yeah, that's okay. So thanks, Aarti, for your time. And this looks really interesting. And looking forward to gaining more knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, this is about right brain stimulation and how I started my journey. So let's start from there. So when I got conceived with my first baby, I came across a similar picture, which showed that 90% of the growth happens in the first 6 years of a child's life. And it also showed the importance of early education, which made me very curious. And that made me start reflecting my own childhood. So during my childhood days, I was struggling to read, or I was struggling to, spellings, basic academics. I was struggling a lot, which really took a big toll on my self confidence. So I was struggling a lot. And later, around my eighth grade, found out that I was dyslexic and it was very difficult for me to learn any languages. And that even started my curiosity even more, how some people are having sponge like ability, how some children are able to grasp anything instantly, or how some people are able to learn faster than what I could. So that was the curiosity that I had, and I started digging into early childhood education. And I bumped on right brain education or right brain stimulation. It's also called as right brain flashcards journey. These are different terminologies people use, but mostly they call right brain stimulation. That's what they call. So uh, that's how I started with this right brain theory. So when a child is born with 100 billion brain cells, and they have lots of neurons and synapses formation during the early childhood for during infancy they have. So using that ability, using that as a thing, we start stimulating a child right from pregnancy or even immediately after the child is born. So when I got conceived with my older one, I started having a routine for my baby. Like I started talking with my baby, bedtime stories. I used to talk to her. I used to describe her how the world is. I used to talk to her what I cook. I used to tell her how it feels like to smell something, a curry or like, a flower or any essence oil that I use. I used to tell her how the smell is for me. And I used to tell her the entire around the world. And my husband used to talk to my baby as well. So he had a set of time where he used to say, okay, I'm going to the office. I'm going to be back at this time. I'm going to talk to you. So all these things we started doing during the pregnancy period itself. And after the child was born, say around 30 days of time, we started the actual program. I will get into the details as we go by. So this is what I started doing as an early childhood. I started this. So a lot of people were asking me the question: the child is only 20 days old or 30 days old. Why do you have to start so early? You're pressurizing the child. You're really, you're not letting the child to grow naturally. So that's what they were asking. I wanted to tell you a small story. Back in India or Thailand or Sri Lanka, when an elephant calf is born, they used to chain the elephant calf, and the nail used to be drilled down to the earth. So the elephant calf tries to break the chain, and tries harder and harder to break, but the calf cannot, and it doesn't escape the chain at all. It's just there. as the elephant grows, the depth of the nail on the earth is the same. The chain might be bigger according to the size of the elephant, but the depth of the nail is still the same as the calf, as it was a calf. So the elephant, if it thinks it wants to break, it can easily break the chain, but it doesn't attempt at all. The reason being is it just gets wired in its brain, thinking, "Oh, I cannot break, I cannot run. I'm chained now. I can't just do it." So it just wired in its brain. Similarly, for children, when we start early, they think learning is fun. We associate learning to be fun, and it's not a chore, or it's not something to be, doing spellings or doing anything. It's fun activity. It's just like play. It's not something very strenuous for them. They just love it. So you'll have to excuse my background noise because the children are around now. So so that's what I always tell parents about gentle parenting. So this whole thing is, it should not be strenuous, should not be pressurizing the child. It's more fun, and it should be done in a very loved and joyful manner, and with a lot of happiness. So a mother's mood, who is going to do the entire activity, the mood of the person is actually reflected into the child. The child can absorb everything. As a baby, they'll be able to understand, okay, my mom is stressed, oh, my mom is putting pressure on me, my mom is not happy doing this. So the child would be able to understand all those things. So when we present this to the child, we have to be really, really, really happy, joyful, and fun, so it's not pressurizing really. So we actually wire the brain that way. What exactly is right brain? So I've been speaking about right brain all this time. What is exactly about? So we've got two parts of the brain. We have the left side and we go the right side. So the right side is not a logical side. It just looks, the big picture. It's very creative, imaginative, and is able to absorb. And it's got the sponge-like ability. Whereas the left brain, it needs a step-by-step process. It needs reasoning. It's very logical. It needs facts. So it is basically anything that we do, basically anything that we read, or the phonics that we do, or the spellings that we do, the talk, everything is left brain. The math, the logical reasoning, everything is left brain. But the right brain is so non-verbal, and it is very creative. That's what is all right brain. So a child, when the child is born, the child's logical reasoning is obviously not developed. A child starts their logical reasoning only from the age of 3 or 3.5. So only the right brain is majorly developed for a child. So we utilize that part of the brain, and then we stimulate that part of the brain, and bring the best of the child. So right, as I've told you already, right brain is imaginative, it's creative, and it looks at big picture. So I'm just going to skip this slide. And the left brain is logical, sequential, which we already know. So who are the main people who actually invented about right brain? There are three main people, I would say. The first one, who's very famous, is Glenn Dillman. Glenn Doman's program, if you read all his books, they don't call it right brain at all. They never call anywhere in their books or any part of their conversations. They never call it right brain at all. They just say, we stimulate the child through some techniques, and we do reading program and math program, and we do encyclopedic program. And his books are great. They're very easy to understand. They're very easy to read. They're not very difficult. And I would tell you a very interesting story. Um, I think it was around 1940s, 1950s, somewhere around that time. Glenn Durbin went to Japan, and he was closely working with someone else. And only after which he learned all his techniques, and after which he wrote all these books. And when they started this right brain technique, they started with an adult who was in losing their memory, who's got Alzheimer's or dementia. So they started with those people. They just showed their flashcard, showed their name. Your name is Paul. Your name is this, and your sons are these each. They started showing pictures of those people, and they started regaining their memory a bit. So after which they said, okay, let's try this for children, and they tried with a child whose brain injured. with Down syndrome or various other things, and they tried with all those children, and they found, the child was able to progress and develop far more what they were through using these techniques. And then they tried with other normal children, and they saw that the intelligence multiplied, and they were able to uh, the absorbing capability, the sponge-like ability was like more faster, and it was developing faster than any other child who was not stimulated. And not just math or reading or encyclopedia. It was also to do with music. So starting music as early as 2 year old or 1.5 year old. I think the famous Suzuki method. So all these were the inspirations for Glenn Durman to write his books. So his books are very easy and simple to read, and they've got a wonderful institute called Institute of Human Potential in US. So where a lot of parents go and enroll themselves for their programs, and it's all home-based programs. It's nothing to do. You don't have to go there physically, and they don't do the programs. You can do it yourself. As a parent, you can just read these books. You get these books on Amazon, and just learn it yourself and do it, implement it. The next person is Shichida, Makoto Shichida. His programs, again, there are a lot of institutes in UK and in Australia, Singapore. There are a lot of institute of his who does his program. They mainly focus on, again, maths and language, and a lot of activities that they focus on. His program, it doesn't seem to be complete. It's got a lot of, it's just been left abrupt, so we don't know what he did. There are not many clear books of his. These books, I have read these books, but they are very on a very superficial level. He doesn't go in any depth at all. It's very difficult to find any notes of his. So people who attended his program in the institute in Japan might be able to get more knowledge, but unfortunately, there is very limited information about his works,
Mm.
his program. Okay. So the next person is Heguru. Again, there are a lot of institutes across the world, Heguru's institutes, and all his books. Again, there are many books of his is in Japanese. So I don't think I've ever read his books at all. This is an institute. This picture is from the Singapore Heguru Center, where the people are performing linking memory. I will explain you as we go by. So it's a memory technique. It's a story technique, which I will again explain you as we go by. So these are the three main inspiring people in this field of right brain. So what are the benefits of doing all these? Okay, so there are a lot of activities which you can do, which I will talk about it. So basically, the sponge-like ability, which I'm telling, when a child has that, they can learn anything in this world, anything. If they want to be, physically or mentally or anything they want to learn, they'll be able to learn once they have the ability to learn and the grasping power, and they are very attentive. So some children struggle to even sit down for a few seconds to even look at something, but these children, when they go through this program, they're able to give 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever time they give, and when they give 100%. So the learning that they have is like 100% when they learn. So that's the biggest benefit I've seen in my children, both my children, when I did this program. So what are the activities that we can do? So flashcards are one of the biggest hit in the activities at home. So the first is the language program. In the language program, okay, I'll brief it. So in the language program, the funny thing is you don't teach alphabets at all. You don't teach phonics at all. You just show flashcards with names or with words, and you show that to the child. Hundreds of them we will be showing through their journey, and with those hundreds of flashcards they'll be able to start reading. My both my children start reading at 1.5, just not one language but 2 to 3 languages they start reading. So when you start early, because their ability to give or concentrate is more when they're very young. So they start reading very fast because they're able to focus a lot more better and not distractive when they're very young, say 6 months and 8 months. My child used to babble words when she sees the words because she's seen them and she knows them and she just reads it. And her reading has gone very strong at 4 years of age now. The next is the math program that we do. math program, again, we don't teach numerals. We just show dots, red color dots, as in the picture over here. So we show them saying, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. And we, after hundreds of cards, 0 to 100, after we show that, we start doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and even you can do algebra. So I've got videos of my child, maybe I'll share it with you guys later, of my children, that they were able to say 98 minus 64 minus this. What is it? I show them 2 cards and they pick it up. And they don't count, they just look at the quantity and recognize the quantity. This is 63, this is 54. They were able to see that. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, okay. So they were able to say that. So so that's the most the interesting bit of the entire program, because of which their mathematical ability is multiplied. I think it's like Shakuntala Devi, where she looks at numbers, she gets the answers instantly. That is what happens to them. They look at the number, they are able to answer it instantly. They're able to do the mental arithmetic very, very faster. So that's one activity which we do. The next activity is the encyclopedia. As the word suggests, it's general knowledge. So, for example, let's give you, say, types of animals. So we start with very basic things. As a child is born, we start with different mammals, birds, then we have things at home, then we have, as they grow by, we expand their vocabulary, we expand their general knowledge. So different prime ministers, different presidents, so variety of topics, variety of things to discuss, and variety of. So there was one more activity that I used to do based on the encyclopedic program, which is like the world. So one week we have a theme, say Egypt is the theme that we have this week. So we listen to songs or whatever, Egyptian songs. We listen to that kind of music, and then we listen to we read about the different presidents about Egypt, and then different rivers, different deserts, whatever they eat. So we show them. We discuss more on Egypt, so they know the culture over there, and then we move on to the next country. So that was one of the activity that we used to, and we even used to have a dress up activity, so they can just pretend and play and dress up like in whatever they were in the Egypt. So we used to do such activities, which was also fun, and was also they understand more on a particular culture. And I started this, I think, at the age of 1.5. I started doing this, so they enjoyed thoroughly. So we
Um,
get into the yeah.
Aarti, I think we've lost the presentation. Shall I share it or?
Oh, really?
Yeah, somehow we.
Can you
I
see now?
mean, um, I don't know. Suddenly it went.
Oh, really? Okay.
On this slide, actually, in the last few minutes, I would say
Okay.
3-4 minutes. I could share it if you want.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So can you see it?
Now I'll have to just exit the screen. Yeah, I'm just trying to exit the screen. So
Okay. Can you see the presentation, everybody?
yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
excellent. Yeah. You tell me when to
Yeah,
move. Yeah.
yeah, we can move to the next slide, please.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the different activities that we do. I'll just go through from the morning routine that we have till the evening routine that we have, like a routine that I will take you through, and then also explain you of the various activities that we do.
Yeah.
So the first activity in the morning is to exercise the eyes. Okay, so when we wake up, after we wake up, and we'll do all our daily chores, the first thing before any learning program will be the exercise to the eyes. So it's basically the infinity symbol is like this. So basically we draw, or we just, when the child is very young, we just draw in the air, so the child just follows the hand, or we just put an object and ask this child to follow the object and draw different patterns. So they stimulate the eyes, they roll their eyes in all directions, which will help them to stimulate the eye muscles, which also helps them in reading, because it strengthens the eye muscles. Uh, so back in India, in classical Indian classical dance and yoga, if you practice these exercises every day, you can actually get rid of, if you, even if you have an eye power,
Mm.
get rid of by practicing this every single day. So this is something amazing that I think all children should do. This way, when we practice this every day, it will enable them to quantum speed read. So
Mm.
it enables them to start reading very fast, and they don't have to spend hours together in a single book. So they'll be able to just, like a robot, they'll be just able to flip the pages quickly, and they'll be able to finish a big book in no matter of time. So that's the ability that they could develop by doing this exercise. So that's one of the exercises that we do. So we can go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
So the next activity that we do is the mandala. Mandala is nothing but a colored pattern. Okay. So I basically start with two colors and just flash the child the color. Okay. I'm going to show you a mandala and show the child like this. Okay. And then I take it off and I give the same picture just like this. The second picture I have just a pencil sketching, pencil
Mm-hmm.
drawing. I give it to them and I ask them to color with the colors that they saw, what I've showed them. So it is only
Mm-hmm.
1 second of flashing. They've got to pay attention and they've got to pick the colors and they've got to start coloring what they've seen. If the child is too young to color, I just flash it. Okay, let's see the mandala. I just show them the colored one and black and white one, or the plain one. So that again stimulates the child. By looking at that, they understand that it's different patterns. It's the same thing, but it's different. It's different colors. They understand. So this is another activity that we do. So the third activity that I would pick every day would be, can we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Is I'll show this picture first. I mean, the picture which has got a grid of different things over there, different
Yeah.
pictures over here.
Mm-hmm.
So that picture is what we do. So that we do it in two ways. I show the picture, I show the sequence. They've got to arrange that in the same sequence that they have seen. Again, when I
Oh.
show it to them, I show it to them only for a couple of seconds and not more than that. I just show them for like one, two, and I take it off. So they've
Oh.
got to arrange whatever they've seen. And the next activity that I do with the same pictures is linking story. So I tell them a story. It'll be completely bizarre. It will be completely, it need not be rational at all. Completely irrational story. So a bunny found a socks and bore it to, and gave it to the duck, something like that, where completely you make it up. And the child then has to narrate the same story and the sequence of the objects, so it helps them in memory enhancement of theirs.
Mm.
So that's one thing that we do. And then this activity over here, which you see, one bun, two shoe, is nothing but again a memory thing, where you associate a number and you associate an object which is rhyming to the
Okay.
number, and they have to recall and tell when we,
Oh.
okay, what's number 5? So hive. What's number 10? Hen. So they've got to recall and tell. So you can
Oh.
get to hundreds. This is again, it's based on the memory. It stimulates your memory. So that's something
Mm-hmm.
to do. Then the activity here is music activity. So music again enhances your, stimulates your right brain. So now in the music program, we have a separate program for music where listening is one part and
Mm.
playing is another part. Both my children started music from the age of 8 to 10 months old, and my older one is a violinist, professional violinist now. She's pursuing a grade 7 in ABRSM. She's 10
Um,
years of age.
she's 10, just 10
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
And my little one, she started playing the violin as well, violin and the piano. So again, pursuing a grade 1 at this age. So we start very early, where we again, flashcards, all these things, all the musical reading
Mm.
is through flashcards, and the playing is through listening. So they don't look at the music and play first; they listen
Mm-hmm.
and then they play. So which helps them to develop perfect pitch. So most of the times to tune the violin, they don't use a violin tuner. They were like, they play, oh, this is B sharp, oh, this is this is that. They would say, I have no idea, but they do it. So I really don't have any idea, but they are able to do it. So which is amazing.
The
Mm.
little one is only 5, right?
She's
Four,
only
five,
4. She's
four,
4. She's
four. Yeah.
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can teach time. So reading time is a piece of cake at the age of 2 and 3. It's very easy, because when you start through the flashcards, they'll be able to do it and memorize it very easily because of the flashcards way of teaching again.
Mm,
Again, one common question that I'm asked is this all not a memory technique that we're doing here? Is it, how does this actually be right brain? It's all just memory, because most of these activities
mm,
are memory, but the speed in which you're doing is what matters over here. When you do it slowly, or when you try to rationalize it, when you try to give a logical explanation to it, it doesn't become right brain stimulation, it just becomes left brain training. So you're training the child to stimulate their left brain. Ultimately, a child's left brain would get stimulated at the age of 3.5, 4. They would have their left brain kicked in and they would start their logical reasoning anyway at that age. But before that, they do not have that logical reasoning ability at all. They would just go with, with uh, without any rational, without any thinking, they would go in that way. So you're just trying, so we should not be giving an explanation or logical reasoning or anything or any explanation when we do these sessions. That's what makes the difference.
mhm,
So, imaginary story. Again, the storytelling is one of the activities that we do before bedtime. So, in this activity, what we do is we tell again a very bizarre story which stimulates their senses. The main idea over here is when they are not in that particular scenario, you tell them a scenario and make them feel, which could stimulate their five senses. Okay, so uh, it's bedtime and it's just 10 minutes to bed, and I'll be telling the story. Now we are going to the beach, and we are, imagine that you're closing your eyes and imagine that you're going to the beach now. As you walk closer to the beach, you feel the sand. The sand is very coarse and it pricks your leg, and you want to take your shoes off because the sand is getting into your shoes. Now you're taking your shoes off and you're walking and you're dipping your legs on the beach. The water is extremely cold, and so you want a wetsuit now. All right, let's get your wetsuit on. Okay, you're wearing it now, and you're diving deep into the sea. And as you go into the sea, you see something very, very scaly. Oh, what's that? Let's touch it. Let's try feeling it. That's a mermaid, isn't it? So it's a very bizarre story. It's not, it's not realistic or anything. It's very imaginative. It's very, so, but you're making them feel the different textures that they would have previously experienced when they're not experiencing at the
mm.
moment. So smell, cold, heat, touch. So anything like that would be wonderful, as bizarre as possible, the story. So the next things, these are some of the other things which normally every parent would do with your children: jigsaw puzzles or tangrams or memory matching games. These are some of the common things that we normally do, but these are again, it's wonderful techniques and wonderful, things to stimulate the right brain as well. So the idea is it should not be slow. It has to be really, really fast when we do it. So if you do it very slowly and explain them, then the idea, the thought is killed over here. So you've got to be really fast when you do these activities with your children. So things that we've really got to remember when we enter this program is, first of all, you have to understand what is right brain education, what does it entail, how are we going to implement it. So how much of a routine should I have every day? All that needs to be prepared. And preparing the materials are the biggest problem in the right brain education, because there are a lot of materials involved. When we do, there are max cards, there are language cards, there are encyclopedic materials, which would really take up my entire living room is filled with flashcards and materials for this. Because languages, I have four languages which I'm teaching: English, Tamil, then I have Spanish, and I have French. So I have four languages, and Hindi. So five languages which is going on for me. Then I have math, and which I started at the age of 30 days old, which is 1 month I started. And then I had encyclopedia with a variety of topics like history, geography. So we just don't stick to one topic, any topic. And then books. So all these books are created by me for my children, not the commercially bought books. The reason why I make these books is because only I know what topics I'm taking in the week. For example, if I'm going to talk about Egypt, I prepare a book on Egypt. How Egypt is, or what are the famous things there. So something about it. So just to write up on that. So different Egypt gods were one of the topic that we had. So different places to visit in Egypt. food to eat in Egypt. So there were some of these were some of the things that we had in our topic. So based on that, I create books for them and I read it to them. And the books, very, very important in the books is it should not be distractive for the child, because often in the commercially sold books, there are a lot of pictures on one side and there are a lot of written information on the other side, or the picture and the written content on the same side. But in this program, in my books, there will be no pictures on the place where the information is written. So if there's an information written, there should be no pictures. So it's only the reading. So which will help the child focus on the reading, on the page where they're reading. And when they're looking at the picture, they completely look only at the picture. Because when there is a picture, the child is definitely not going to read, is not interested in reading, because that's more attractive rather than the reading. So we don't do that. And another thing in the language program, in the reading program, that we got to remember is we've got to use the same font. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
using Times New Roman, or if you're using Arial, thick, use the same font until the child starts reading. Once the child starts reading, then they'll be able to recognize the different words. If it's italic or if it's written in different in any font, they'll be able to, oh, this is this. They'll be able to read. But until that point, we've got to, just show them in a particular font so that they know, oh, this is the same word, that I've looked at this word. And when you read books, oh, I've looked at this word. It helps them, remind them, and
Mm.
they able to recollect it.
Next one.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we spoke about imaginary story. So
Mm-hmm.
we can go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about this
Yeah.
tangram memory matching. So we can move on to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about this as well. So yeah, there is another very important thing in this slide which I wanted to tell you is we've got to make the entire program very, 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 very happy. So often when I mentor parents or when I talk to them, they say, okay, come on, like, morning 8 o'clock, you're doing this, morning 9 o'clock, you're doing this, morning 10 o'clock, you're doing this. It's like a curriculum. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
back to back. The child is like, filled with activities and things. It should not be like that. You shouldn't be spending more than 15 minutes with a child. The entire program should not exceed 15 minutes at all. I'm saying this for a 4-year old or a 3-year old. It's only 15 minutes. So the younger the child, only few seconds you should be spent,
Mm-hmm.
because the child should not be sitting in one place and doing anything. The child cannot simply do that. It's not possible for the child to do that at that age. So, and sometimes the child simply doesn't want to, do anything that you ask the child to do.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to respect the child. The child doesn't want to do it. You just say fine and you pack it off. So there should not be any sort of forcing or telling off the child or anything like that, because this is completely a program which has to be fun based and understanding, because there's a lot of respect that you've got to give the child, and the child gives the same respect back to you. So it should be mutual, and you should present it to the child happily. And if the mother is not in a position to do that, they simply should not be doing this at all at that particular day,
Mm-hmm.
because that's extremely important. It will really, really kill the idea of early stimulation and joyful parenting and gentle parenting. It would just completely kill that idea if the parent is going to force the child to do something if
Mm-hmm.
the child is not ready. Sometimes there have been months when my children said no to flashcards or some activities, and I just simply had to pack it off and wait until the child was ready to take it again. And I had to present it in a different way, and I had to come up with some other idea to give it to the child. So we just have to be innovative at times, and also be patient with the child. And it's not a one day, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon that we are running with the child with regards to it. So we've got to really take it very gently. And as much as we respect the child, we should respect ourselves. There are days when parents don't sleep. There are days when we
Mm-hmm.
don't get a night's sleep at all. There are days we don't eat on time. So we might be tired. So those are days. We should not beat ourselves too much as well as parents. We just have to say, okay, this is not my day. Let's do it tomorrow. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So parents should be also gentle with themselves as much as they're gentle with the children. So we can
Absolutely.
go to the next slide.
Yeah.
So in conclusion with everything, the most important thing, the reward is the entire journey that you have. It's not a result, it's not a goal, it's not that you achieve, what you've got to achieve. Okay, my child is going to be a genius after this program, I'm going to aim at that. There is something like that. You just have to be gentle, you just have to enjoy this journey and take through. What comes to you will come to you with the child. The child will definitely get stimulated, the child would definitely get, to what extent varies from person to person. So you can't compare another person who's doing right brain with your child and expect the
Mm,
same results. You cannot. Every child is capable equally, and we are just stimulating, using the early education techniques and stimulation techniques at the early parenting period. So let's
mhm,
utilize that. So there are some of the questions that are normally be asked in any forum. So when I discuss about right brain, so I would like to discuss that as well. So we can go to the next slide, please. Thank
yeah.
you. So some common questions that are be asked is, my child is too distracted. This happens normally when the child is like 1.5, 2, when they're able to run and jump.
Mm,
They get too distracted. What should I do? Many times what happens is, my child will be running in the room. She won't be looking at me, she won't be looking at the flashcard, but I'll be still flashing. I will be sitting in the room, I would say, we're going to do this session, and I'll be doing the session. My child listens, and sometimes my child responds to it. After 10 days, I'll be doing some other activity that might come on a TV or something. She'll say, oh, I see this on the flashcard. She'll be telling me about all about it, what she listened.
mm,
The children often listen a lot than actually seeing as well. So
mm,
you don't have to have your child sitting in an attention position looking at the flashcard, not distracted. That's never going to happen. You are going to have a distracted child over there. So if
yeah.
you're going to show 10 things, they're only going to take in 5 things. So the rest of the 5 things, you're going to leave it off. But that's definitely going to happen, but you don't have to force it. Always remember, your child is improved from what the child was,
Mm,
with 5 new information or 5 new things. So you don't have to worry. What if the child cries during the session? Oh, you simply have to stop. If the child is crying and if the child is not in a happy state, please stop the session. Don't force the child. Don't say. And often parents, I find parents bribing the child. Okay, if you listen to this, I'm going to give you a cupcake. I'm going to give you, candy. You will end up loading your child with sugar, and you're going to
mm,
have a very cranky child after the sugar is loaded. So please don't do that as well. You can't have that as well. What if the child grabs and pulls out the materials that you present to the child? So that's a very important time where you set boundaries to the child. Okay, so the child often likes their senses to be stimulated. So they want to touch and feel everything that they have, that they're seeing, because it's colorful, it's different. They want to put it in their mouth, they want to taste it. That's how they experience this world. So I would suggest that you give them first, let them touch and feel. This is the materials I'm going to present to you today. And then after they're happy with it, pack it off. And after 15 minutes of break, then present it to the child, saying, okay, let's look at these. So setting the boundaries is very important, and this could take quite a bit of a time if you're not starting early. If you're starting a bit late at 1.5 and 2 years, this could take a bit of time, because the child wants to grab everything that's there with you and they want to explore it. So it would take a little bit of time, settling down time, and boundary
mm,
setting time. It's a bit challenging period at this point of time. What if the child asks for explanation of every single thing that you show? What is this? What is this? What is this? So that means you've got to tell your child before you're going to show the flashcards. Give them the information so that they don't ask the question. Or tell them after the session you will explain them, and then go back explaining them after the session is over. But don't do it during the session. For example, if you're going to show 5 words, so 5 new words: piano, violin, cello, you're going to show all these words. Your child is asking you, what is cello, what is piano, what is violin? You don't explain them then, you just tell them, okay, I'm going to explain you. I know you don't know what this is, so we're going to do it later, we're going to see it later. And you can show pictures of that. Violin, this is how violin looks. It's a musical instrument. This is a cello. This is a cello, and this is a musical instrument. This is how it looks. People play with the bow, and it's a string instrument. Oh, this is piano. This is a percussion. This is how people play the piano, and it's got a lot of keys on it. So you can explain them after the session is over, and but not during the session. Will my child remember everything that you show? No, the child is not going to remember everything. only maybe 50% or 40% the child will remember, the rest will be forgotten. But you're expanding the brain, the sponge like ability, you're exercising the brain muscle over there, so the child will later recollect it. I'm going to tell you a story about my nephew and my sister-in-law about this particular thing. So my sister-in-law started, she did flashcards with my nephew many years ago. It was 17 years ago, I think. He's 17 now, so
16.
17 years ago, I think she did. And after he attended his chemistry lesson, he came back to the house and he told his mother, "Mom, did you do anything with me when I was little? I seem to know everything, the periodic table, the teacher is talking to me, and I seem to know everything. How is this possible? I've never read it as far as I remember. How do I know everything?" Then the mother says, when you were little, I used to show flashcards for these, and I used to talk about these to you. We used to read books on these. So maybe, at that point of time, she never questioned him. But later, after 16 years, I think it just appears to him as though he knows everything,
Wow.
and it just naturally.
Oh, gosh.
That's what it happens. And so when can I see results? Okay, I've done everything that you said, Aarti. Now that's fine. Now when can I see results? What will happen to my baby? When will my baby be genius? Oh, so normally it takes up to 5 to 6 years to even see, your child is different, your child has got more capability, more potential, and is more brighter in all sort of way. For you to understand, it would take up to 3 to 4 years. So as I told you in the beginning, every child is different. So some child you would stimulate so much and the child would be only so much, but some children you would do little but they would, so it really depends on the child. But remember, every child would, their intelligence gets multiplied by you doing this, and there is absolutely no harm doing this at all. There's absolutely nothing that's going to be harmful to the child, except if you force them. So please don't force them. Other than that, there's absolutely nothing that you're going to do, any harm to them at all. So there's another question that I often get is the guilt approach. Often parents feel, they've lost so much time. Oh, my child is 3 years and I know about it only now. How, and they appear, they
Mm,
present themselves with guilt to the child. Unfortunately, when we are filled with guilt, there's a unknown pressure, there's a lot of force, and there's a lot of what do you say, you want the child to achieve, and you become result oriented. So that's a big problem when we have the guilt approach. So we've got to talk to ourselves and come out of the guilt first before we even embark on this journey of right brain. And again, the next question people ask me is physical cards better? Oh, you can go to the next slide, actually. I'm
oh,
sorry.
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Oh, that's the last slide. Okay, yeah. I have two
Yeah.
more questions here. I'm sorry.
All
So,
right. Okay.
yeah. So which is better, physical way of flashing? Because there's a lot of websites which has screen, which present screen. There's one called Right Brain Education Library. So where it's completely screen based program. There's one program called Right Brain Child. It's again completely screen based program. Right Brain Child website is really good if you really want to implement this to your children, or if any of your things. It's really good. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of information about the entire, right brain approaches. So the lady who runs this website, she's a very experienced person, and she's got a lot of knowledge on right brain. She has two old children, like I think her sons are in 20s, early 20s, I think. So she's got loads of experience in this area. She's recorded everything that she's experienced in right brain in her website. It's called Right Brain Child. It's really wonderful website. So if you want to see and read about it, it's really beautiful.
Mm,
And then, how much work should parents do? Yes, initially there are a lot of work that the parents should do, because first of all, you'll be educating yourself on right brain. This is because this is completely a home-based program, and there are a lot of centers like Shichida Center. It's there in London. I think it's also there in Manchester. It's not there in Leeds. And then there is Heguru centers. Again, I don't know if the Heguru centers are there in Leeds. They're not there, but they are there in somewhere in London. I've seen them. So they're very expensive, extremely expensive. So it's really easier to do a home-based program where the expenditure is really less than going into any centers and doing it. So yes, we can now go for
Right.
discussions.
Right. Yeah. Okay, we're open for questions, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will stop sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Paula. Yeah.
That was absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. And I've got quite a few questions, but I'll just go with one and then see what everybody else has. So I'm just wondering about your children's school and teachers, and do they embrace the work that you've done? Do they know the work that you've done? Do they embrace it?
Right. Okay, so first of all, my children never used to go to school. I was homeschooling them after this. So,
Okay.
and they started going to school only from last month, I think a couple of months, from September, they started going to school. So, my older one, she really appreciated me after going to school. She said, I know so much being at home. I'm going to school now, and I feel that I'm like, I know a lot more than all this. So she was so excited, and
Oh.
it really reflects on their confidence level as well, because they're very confident wherever they are, in whatever crowd they are. They know how to handle themselves, because the right brain is an emotional brain. They know how to be with each person. They know that they exactly know how to behave with an adult. They exactly know how to behave with a teenager. They know how to behave with the children.
Do the teachers know that they've had this training at home, and are they aware?
No, the primary school teacher did ask me, "What did you do?" Because my little one, she went and she started reading books beyond her age, and she started writing like with spelling. So at 4 years of age, they don't expect her to know spellings and without knowing the phonics. So they were like questioning me as, "What did you do? Are you a teacher, or how did you do this?" So yeah, they were curious on what I did.
Oh,
Thank you.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I've got a question while others are thinking about it. You did mention that these flashcards needs to be really flashed for a very short while, maybe few seconds. And I think lots of the time we keep repeating it. I mean, is that what you would advise? Is it? Because you tend to show it for a short while.
No, we don't repeat it at all. Okay, so a flashcard once used will never be repeated at all. So for example, if let's look at the language program. In the language program, if I'm going to say smile is a word I'm showing to my child, and I show it there's a particular period of time I show. So I show it 3 times in a day, and I show it for 5 days. So every day I show the word smile to her. And after which I pack it off and I keep it away and never show the word ever again to her. That's it. Done. That word is retired. So I don't bring that word back to her at all. But she would look at the word in the books. So she would look at the word smile in every book that she reads. And that's how she said, "Oh, I've seen this word. Oh, I know this word." So she recollects it when I read it through over and over again in different books I read. It won't be the same book, but it'd be different things. So that's how they learn the language program. In encyclopedic program, it's different. It's completely different. So for example, if I'm showing her different monuments in India, I'll show it to her only for 5 days and 3 times and pack it off completely. It will not be there at all. And I bring back those cards nearly after a year. I bring it back to her and show it to her. And that's how. So we have a memory pattern is developed when you show it to them periodically, and you stop and then you revise it, and then you stop and then you revise it. So and then it becomes permanent. They remember most of it permanently. They cannot forget it at all.
Wow, right. Okay. Right.
All right.
Anybody else? Rebecca, do you have a question? Or?
I'm finding it fascinating, because you're obviously very passionate about the program, and I just wondered if there is anything that you think is a criticism or anything that doesn't work with the program that concerns you slightly. I mean, if I sort of tell you where I'm coming from with this. One of the things you gave the example of is when you're doing reading with the children, you'll just show the word and not the pictures, so the children don't get distracted by the pictures. My experience of teaching children to read is that we talk through the pictures and we allow the children to explore the pictures and use the pictures as prompts for discussion and prompts for developing vocabulary. And actually that works, that complements the written text so that the children see the two together as a combination. And that's sort of, I guess, part of my experience of teaching children to read. And I just worried that just seeing the word means that they might not then be exposed to other words that would be generated from the visual images.
Okay. So I get your question. So, so what I'm trying to say is, only in the reading program, only the text should be there and the picture should be separate. But talking about the picture, it should be a separate activity. It should not be a reading program at all. So wherein they are allowed to express themselves looking at the picture. So there are games where we have, so the linking memory game, especially, which I was talking about, where you show pictures. It's completely picture-based activity. So where we develop a bizarre story. So we ask the child to develop the story rather than the adult doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
So they can express more on what they look at the picture and describe. So the reading program should be completely only reading, and there should be no distraction at all. So when there's a distraction, they just get the picture into their head and they don't look at the text at all. They just completely ignore everything that's written there. So that's
okay. So they're kind of separate activities for different purposes. That makes more sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Also, often parents who do this program ignore the physical activities, the physical bit of a child's development, which is extremely dangerous for many parents whom I see. They just stop the physical activity of the child, which is very. A child should develop naturally. The child should run around. They should play. They should go outdoor. They should do everything. They have to. They cannot just get confined home and sit with the parent and just keep doing this program. Now it should be not more than the specified time, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It should not be more than that. And these activities should be like, you have to split it and label it. Mondays I'm going to do this, Tuesdays I'm going to do this, Wednesday I'm going to do this. So you have to define your time. The rest of the time the child should have their physical activity stimulated. If that is not there, none of these are going to work. It's terribly, because I've seen so many parents ignoring the physical bit of development of a child. They just want their mental stimulation and just forget this. That shouldn't be their case at all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Does it always work on a one-to-one basis? Would it work in a setting where the practitioner would be working with 3-4 children, for example?
It's a very difficult, because I've worked with a lot of twins, and they distract each other, and they completely destroy the environment by giggling and talking and chatting and each other's hair. So it depends on the children whom we work with. If they are attentive and if they're able to give, then that's fine. But if they're not, then it should be more on a one-on-one basis rather than a group.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Okay. Sharon, do you have a question?
I was just going to ask about how this integration of your children moving into school settings how will that sit alongside this? Will you continue your program at home and they'll do their curriculum at school? I'm just curious. I've got 2 children, 9 and 3. So I'm just curious, what would that look like if you were to do a little bit of both, or how might those 2 different educational programs complement one another?
Okay, so I do the program at home, and whatever she learns at school, she learns at school. So I don't teach phonics at home. I do not know phonics at all. So I don't interfere with the teachers, what they teach at school. I completely leave it to the teacher there. And what I teach at home is completely, it's different, and it's nowhere related to what they teach in the curriculum at 3 years of age or 4 years or 5 years of age. So it doesn't interfere at all. And so it really actually helps her, complements her with her school learning. What I do at home, it really enhances her ability more. So it's only useful for her. With my 10-year-old now, she's gone to a stage where we don't have to just do any of these programs at all, unless or until she's learning something completely new and she's struggling to learn, only then create flashcards for her. Otherwise, I don't do it at all. I just leave what she learns at school. That's it. So this program is very, very effective for a child between 0 to 6 years of age. Anything more than that, I would really not do it, because I think their logical brain is more stronger. They want everything. They want answers. Only then they can remember. They cannot just remember by flashing at that point of time. They cannot just connect to that particular program. So I would only do it only if the child is struggling. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it at all beyond that particular point of time. I would just leave it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paula.
Sorry again. I'm just thinking, have you your network, is how many families are doing this? How much training? Do you do training for the local authority? Just thinking, perhaps some of this work would be interesting for parenting programs. There's a lot of speech and language in there. So just about your network, who you're involved with, the types of talks that you go out to do. So lots of questions all in one there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm very, very glad to do this. So my network is mostly Indian parents. So and I have an Instagram channel, handle. So there are a lot of parents who talk to me, or a Facebook group. So they come and talk to me. I connect them through Facebook and Instagram. They all know me, what I do through my videos I post on Instagram. They just connect to me. I've just stopped the program. I've just stopped everything online now. So I've just shut down myself from the online forums now, because of family reasons, because of the recent things that happened in my life. I just shut myself down completely. So there are at least thousands of parents I've mentored personally. I've started this journey from 2012. I've embarked on this journey. So it's like 10 years I'm into this. And I normally talk to parents who struggle, whose children got autism, who's got spectrum or a speech delay, and they at least a certain degree of improvement in their children alongside the therapy that they're going. With this program, they found a lot, of difference with their children. So but yeah, you've got to be really dedicated and do it every single day, and you've got to write notes on. I go to the extent of making notes where I monitor my child's bowel movements, what food that they eat, how many hours of sleep they get, because sometimes all these will affect their behavior. And I was very curious to see how the behavior was changing with the food that they were eating, and if their sleep and if their bowel movements were not correct, how it affected their behavior, how poorly they responded to things. So that made me very curious, and I started working very closely with my children on making all these notes. So I suggested to a lot of parents with spectrum and with speech delays, and they did come back and tell me that their practitioners really appreciated what they've written. That really helps them to analyze and give them better suggestions to them. So and also alongside the program, there were children, they were improving. I wouldn't say, I don't know if they have they're improving from where they were. A lot of difference they found with those children.
Thank you.
Fascinating. Yeah. Linus, do you want to ask anything? Deb?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I thought it was really interesting. I like the talk a lot. I was thinking, it made me think about my sister. She was born premature. She's nearly 21 now, so this is a long time ago. And she was born 14 weeks premature. And I was thinking about everything that you said would have really helped her, obviously, hindsight and all that now. Because we did do similar things. So she struggled with picking up reading, doing maths, those sorts of things. But she's very visual person, so much so that she does game art design at university now. That is thinking about, especially what you said about the time thing. That's one of the things she really struggled with. And I was just wondering, are there any particular books that you'd recommend now, or any websites or anything?
Definitely read Glenn Doman's books. If you go to Amazon and find Doman books, you get a lot of his books. And he's got a Facebook group as well, Institute of Human Potential. So where they have discussions, they tell what challenges other parents are facing. It's mainly based in America, but there's wonderful discussions. Glenn Doman's grandson, Spencer Doman, he delivers, he talks, he clarifies people's doubts on Saturday. So there's something called Saturday with Doman. There's something that he does on Insta handles. So you can follow him. You can get all your answers there. So they do not call it right brain. And even recently he said, I wouldn't call this right brain. But if you go back to the history, if you really dig deep and find out how did Glenn Durman get this idea, it would go back to him visiting the Heguru centers back in those days. So it's actually, he got his idea from the Japanese. So it is from there it's really originated and gone across the world. And there are a lot of centers for that. So but the easiest way, Heguru and Shichida are very hard to follow, very difficult and very impractical. A lot of things are so hard, but Doman is really, you can do it. You have the confidence. Okay, I can start at my home and I'm comfortable doing. And if you are stuck anywhere, they have a big community to help. There are a lot of people there to help you in Doman. So I would definitely recommend reading Doman's books. I have all of these books. I've got every book of it. I've read every book of it at least a dozen times. So yes, it would be helpful.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. That's brilliant.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
What about some of the poorer families? Are these resources quite expensive? And you said that you made some of your own. I'm just thinking, not parents might not have the confidence to do that or the time to do that. And are the resources expensive? So
it is a very time-consuming process. Rather than the price or the cost, it's extremely time-consuming, because if you've got to prepare, for example, let's take only language program in language program, I have to prepare at least 150 words, just single words I've got to prepare to present it to my child. And that 150 words would get exhausted in a couple of weeks, which means I've got to recreate a new set of 150 words after 2 weeks of time. So, which means I've got to sit down, draw lines. It's like an A3 paper cut into two. It's not a flimsy paper, but it would be like a card. It's like a poster card. So I sit and write. So it's really, really, really time consuming. That's one of the biggest drawbacks of this programs. It is time consuming. You've got to give that time and effort and energy writing them. And if you make a mistake, how much annoying it would be if you make a spelling mistake, or if there's a capital letter where it shouldn't be, you really recreate it. Yeah, it is.
Just thinking, because Rebecca said, are there any criticisms or drawbacks? And I think if parents are working, then preparing all those materials, some parents might think, well, I'm sat here spending hours on the material when I could be sat with my child.
So there are a lot of places where you can buy them for cheap as well. So if you go to the Institute of Human Potential, they're way, way, way expensive. But if you buy it back in India, I can give you dozens of lenders who do it. They would do it like, quarter of the price, or maybe you would get it dead cheap over there, and you can just ship it, and it's really going to be extremely, cheap when you buy from back there. But I would say only £20. With £100, you can buy the whole set of materials your child would need from 0 to 3 years of age. So, but if you go to the Institute of Human Potential, you would be spending at least £1,000 at least. So, yeah, very expensive. If you buy from Doman, it's extremely expensive. But if you order it, if you just be smart and go on Instagram and just search for this, you would get at least hundreds of sellers who are doing this.
Wow.
Thank you.
So
drawbacks, I'm sorry, one of the drawbacks which I really want to point is, which I've experienced with one parent, and the child was also, the child had Asperger's syndrome, I think. The parent had big difficulty because the child was so stimulated, and the mother could not, the parent was homeschooling the child, and they were not able to keep up with the child's, need for stimulation. And the child then later became very aggressive because the child was denied of that stimulation that the child got years because of all these. So I would say that would be one of the challenges as a parent that you would have. If your child is so stimulated, if you're not able to feed the brain when they want it, they could end up with you can imagine what they would end up with. So they would be very
behavior.
extremely aggressive if they're not satisfied, their intelligence wise. So that would be one of the biggest challenges that I would say that you would face. If you have to be careful, you need to orient the child. You've just got to, that would happen to any child, but you've got to really be very careful, and orienting the parenting really comes there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, fascinating. I was actually thinking that establishing what content do you want to include for your child, that could be a big starting trouble or problem, perhaps,
No,
and you
actually,
build on it. Or is there a like, sort of a
no,
list of...
please, you won't struggle with that. I'll tell you why. Many of the parents, they read through the books of German books, or they go through
Okay.
Instagram, and they educate.
Are you there, Aarthi? Oh. Um, have we lost Aarthi? Oh, there you are. Can you unmute yourself, Aarthi?
Oh, sorry, just cut me off and just kick me out.
All right. You're still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So when parents are
Oh, we lost here as well. Oh, the internet is playing, network is playing, I think. Let's go just very excited. She's very excited. Yeah. Oh, there you are. Can you unmute yourself again?
it just keeps kicking me out. I don't know why. It just
well,
yeah.
you're elusive at the minute, but yeah, you want to wind it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of people, they have a plan before they embark on this journey. So especially with maths and English, there's a set of rules that you've got to follow. So when you follow them, you don't get lost. You are really in the groove. But encyclopedia, which is general knowledge, you could get lost. So you've got to drag the plan. So that's why we divide into topics like history, geography, and science. So we human body, we divide into topics and pick each topic from the, and then do it. So it's easy and we don't get lost.
Okay. According to the age and stage of the child as well.
We don't go by age at all. No age.
Oh, right.
It's just we pick the content. Just delivery. The delivery is what is important rather than the content itself.
Right.
We just pick the topic and then present to the child.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
So maybe if you're really, really interested, then I could brief you another day on the entire program, like the math, how it goes about, then the language, the encyclopedia, and the music, brief, and that'd be wonderful.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Deb, any comments? Any questions?
No, it's not sort of ever come across. I'm just absorbing it all.
Yeah.
Sorry, my child coming in and first thumping and then kissing. Both ends of my parenting life.
That made your day.
But no, not something I know about the brain and teach about, how the brain connects, but not in this context. So definitely something that's real food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Fascinating information, Aarthi, and it's an eye-opener for me, who has been teaching for the last almost 30 years, really. And very, very interesting. And I'm actually going to share it with a friend of mine who has a child with special needs. And well, it's a I don't know whether it's not disability, but then something of that sort. And he would be very, very fascinated about it. And I'm also thinking of sharing with a setting who I've just spoken with this morning. This is a DFA thing that I do with the setting, and they have children aged 2 to 3 with very little no speech and language as well, and EAL children as well. So maybe if you don't mind, I will share this video with them.
Definitely, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Paula, you're in mute.
Sorry, I bet there's some principles here for
Yeah.
older people that have got Alzheimer's or something. You know, some of these principles could be, you know, and it's an age group I don't know much about, but I'm sure some of these principles would work just as well with older people.
Yeah.
And fun and engaging too. So yeah, thank you. It's been really enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. We'll be sat here for another few hours and we'll still have a lot more questions. Like I said, maybe we'll bring you back at some point if you're free. Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you, Federico, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
And
Thank
have
you,
a good
Aarthi.
rest of the evening. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Claire. It's good to see you. Bye-bye, Paula and Deb. See you soon.
Bye, everyone. Nice to see you.
See you. Bye-bye.